Greetings, everyone. Welcome again to another edition of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Teacher Certification Course. My name is William. Thank you for joining us wherever you are, out throughout the land and here at the Peaceful Solution headquarters. You can please be seated. Could have saved that warm welcome for tomorrow when the cold front comes through, right? Just kidding. Sometimes I have to let you know I'm kidding, you know. All right, so if you're joining us online, remember you can go ahead and at the top of the Facebook page there is a drop-down menu with the books, the intermediate series Peaceful Solution Program. We are now on the final phase of the intermediate series, the responsibility unit, which is number 5. You can go ahead and click on the link and join us with the teacher's manual there. Feel free to use the manual, teach others. Just make sure you don't change anything. The content, as Chris always reminds us, don't be changing the content, you know. It's a perfect recipe, but if you mess with the recipe, the cookies won't come out right. So make sure you follow the instructions, which is what we're learning to do here. We've been learning the last couple classes here about, you know, the procedure and objective of lessons and procedures to follow and the importance of following the instructions to get the best results in teaching the program. And that's what we talked about last class. In fact, I left off on, let's see, we actually made it to the middle of lesson plan 1, page A, I think is where we left off. And I wanted to, well, I better not do that yet, but let's go ahead and let's start back at the top of the page, lesson plan 1, page A, where it says Unit 5, Responsibility, Introduction to the Unit. And it says, have you ever considered what our world would be like if everyone took responsibility for their actions and learned from the outcome of their choices? If everyone developed this one positive character trait of being responsible, it would greatly improve the morale in our home, school, and society as a whole. And remember, I showed you the definition of the word morale because it looks a lot like moral. It has an E on the end of it. It's not the same word, doesn't have the same meaning, but it does mean that you'll have confidence, boldness, assertiveness. You'll have a high expectation that things will go right if you follow what you've been taught in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Remember, that doesn't mean you're proud or arrogant. It just means you're confident. You know, bold is a personality trait, okay? It's a personality trait. And, you know, it could go either way. You know, you can be bold in stupidity, or you can be bold in doing the right thing, you know, standing up for something, even though everyone else is going another way, and being courageous. You know, bold and courageous tie in together. Okay, so it says, imagine a world where there's no child abuse because more parents take responsibility for the safety and well-being of their children. Some will say such a world is an impossible standard to achieve. However, the only way we can improve as individuals and hence as a society is to have a standard to work towards. And that's where I left off in the last class. I want to put that slide back up, the first visual, and remind you the standard, what a standard is. And everybody, when you look at a ruler, you probably don't think much of a standard, but that's what a standard is. It's a rule. It's a boundary. Think of it as a boundary. It's as far as you can go. You know, that's what the word rule means. It's a limit. Okay, and rules all have limits. Okay, just like we learned about in the Peaceful Solution. You can keep the slide up too, by the way. I'm probably going to rant a little bit here, but you know, in the Peaceful Solution in the earlier grades, we teach about boundaries. You know, the importance of keeping boundaries, not crossing. You know, if your parents tell you, you know, don't go outside that gate when you're out in the yard playing, you know, don't go outside the fence, you know. Well, there's a boundary there, and you can clearly see that boundary. There's a fence, right? But sometimes boundaries don't have any marks. You know, kind of like when you're coming across the state line, the only way you would know you're coming from Louisiana to Texas is because there's a sign there that says "Welcome to Texas." But otherwise, there's no big white chalk line going across the land showing you, you know, dividing the land up, showing you which state belongs to who. But there are invisible boundaries as well, okay? And I think if you ever did time in jail or prison, you would know about those invisible boundaries, you know. You don't, for instance, you wouldn't want to sit on somebody's bunk, you know, or touch anybody's property in a jail or prison because, believe it or not, even thieves don't like to be stolen from, and they don't like people intruding or trespassing on their belongings. So, but that's a standard. It's a standard that we all follow. These standards like rules. A standard, according to Cambridge Dictionary, is a level of quality. It's a moral rule that should be obeyed. And it's a pattern or model that is generally accepted. And we learned, you know, I think I reminded you in the character unit, we talked about in the early pages about, you know, morals. Morals are universal principles, you know, that everyone agrees on. You know, we all agree that we shouldn't steal. We all agree that we shouldn't bully. We all agree that we shouldn't, you know, murder. We all agree that we shouldn't take advantage of others. Those are all moral principles that everyone in the world can agree upon, okay? And it's a pattern that says, or model that's generally accepted. Now, this is where I want to get into a little bit of something here regarding understanding of rules, because not all of us are on the same level. We don't all think the same way, okay? And that's important to remember when you're teaching the program too. You're dealing with people when you teach the peaceful solution from all walks of life and from other cultures. And there might be cultural barriers that keep them from quite understanding things the way you might be trying to present them. So we got to remember these things when we're bringing the information forth. The word rule, it means one of a set of explicit or understood regulations or principles governing conduct within a particular activity or sphere. You know, like there's school rules, there's rules for the road when you're driving, there's rules at work, there's rules even at play, there's rules. But it's a standard or explicit or understood regulations or principles governing your conduct while you're doing a particular activity or when you're in a particular sphere or a particular environment, okay? But notice I underline explicit or understood. Explicit or understood. Okay, well, understood. What, you know, that entails a lot. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. Let's go to the next slide. Actually, let's not put that up yet. Let me read a little bit more because I think I might run into that as we go on about cognitive. Because we got to get some of these words down in our mind as we progress here. And make sure you write down these definitions because, you know, you're going to be asked, you know, as a teacher, students are going to be asking you questions about these words. It says the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is designed to educate both children and adults on how to develop positive moral character. Acquiring positive character can improve every aspect of life. But to achieve positive moral character, we must do more than imagine. We must put forth effort to educate people to value and develop positive character traits while eliminating negative traits like disrespect, irresponsibility, or a lack of self-control. So we're wanting to, as the Peaceful Solution taught us in the character unit, accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative, okay? We want to acquire or get positive character traits, develop them, but we want to get rid of, eliminate. You know, it's kind of like when you flush the John. You want to eliminate the negative, get rid of them out of your life, okay? And it's something you can do. It's something we all can do, but we have to focus on these things. And the only way to learn to eliminate the negative character traits is to learn what they are. First, you have to be taught so you can actually be aware of and enlightened about what you need to, what the negative traits are that you want to eliminate and the positive ones that you need to develop. It says, the book that you now hold in your hands is designed to help students explore the value of developing a responsible character and how being responsible can improve the quality of their lives. Now, the beauty of this book is, I'm sure we all remember when we were growing up, our parents told us, now you need to be more responsible, or your teacher told you, you need to be more responsible and get your homework done, or your parents told you to be more responsible in doing your chores and getting better grades, etc. But, and you might have had some idea what that might have meant, about responsible, right? You might have had some bit of information about what that might mean, but you didn't have a book. Okay? And believe it or not, it takes a book to learn what true responsibility is. Okay? Remember, not everything is as simple as it seems. Okay? It's easy to say responsibility, but to teach it, to learn it, to practice it, that's a whole nother story. Because, folks, this book is, it's 159 pages long. Okay? And it's actually one of the thinner books. It's one of the smaller books in the Peaceful Solution. Okay? But not by any means is it the least. It's at the last of the list for a reason. Responsibility is the last unit for a reason, as we're going to see as we go along in the program here. So it says, the activities, scenarios, and role plays, as well as news articles about recent events, provide a comprehensive study on the character trait of responsibility. Now remember, the news articles that are within this book right here are probably going to be about 20 years old, okay? That doesn't mean that they're not applicable or you can't use them. Of course you can, because they will solidify certain points about what they're learning. But you can also supplement these articles with articles of your own that are more up to date for your students as well. Okay, now it says other concepts explored in this unit, and by the way, if you just tuned in, I'm on Lesson Plan 1, page A, okay? That's where we're at. We're at the bottom here. It says, other concept explored in this unit, I wonder if, I don't have that on the slide, are how to acquire the cognitive abilities and practical skills needed to become a responsible person. Okay, now there's some big words right there, okay? How would you know how to acquire cognitive abilities, or how would you even know what cognitive abilities are unless you know what that word cognitive means? That's where the next slide comes in. Let's go ahead and learn a little bit about that. So there's a certain type of thinking, it's called cognitive thinking, and what it entails is, here's some of the elements of cognitive thinking. Paying attention, which is a really big deal right now, because I don't know if you know this, but recent studies have shown that most children have the attention span of a goldfish. Or I think it might have said that the goldfish have a longer attention span than human beings. If you ever watched a goldfish come up to the glass and look at you and his lips are like, blub, 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 and then he swims off, Well, that's about how we are now because of these gadgets that we're looking at all day long, these computers and iPads and iPhones and smartphones or whatever we're looking at. These screens have pretty much ruined our ability to concentrate for any length of time, okay? And I can tell you that's a fact even in my life. I spent a lot of time in front of a computer with my glasses on, which is double whammy, looking at a screen. And I can tell you, like, my eyes, when I take my glasses off, when I look away from that screen, sometimes I feel like I'm in the twilight zone for a little while. You know, I'm like, my eyes, I got to focus a little more. And when I try to read something, it's very difficult. If I read for, any amount of time, if I really, sometimes I have to start again because I'm like, what did I just read? Right? Well, it has that effect. Okay. And that's why I mentioned the other day about asking your students not just to read, because they can read fine. Most students can read pretty well. And remember, don't ever make somebody read. Okay. Get volunteers to read, because you'll find sometimes too that there are children that have reading deficits, and it could be very embarrassing for them if you put them on the spot and make them read. Okay. Always ask for volunteers, and be patient with the reader, because sometimes they don't read that well, but at least they're trying and they're doing their best. Make sure if they mispronounce a word, you can politely let them know it's actually pronounced like this. Okay, not to embarrass them or anything like that. But so cognitive, paying attention is one of the elements of cognitive thinking or cognitive skills. Remembering. And some people have pretty great memories. I know guys that have, guys and girls that have photographic memories practically. Okay, they can tell you what page they learned about integrity in one of the other peaceful solution units. They can tell you exactly what page it was on. Now, is that necessarily something that you have to know? Not necessarily. I just told you that I gave you a couple quotes from the character unit, but I really can't tell you what page they're on every time. Okay, but at least I can tell you what book they're in. Okay, and it is important to try to keep a record, or a what do you call it, some kind of working knowledge in your head of where the things are in the different books that we've covered. And that's why you can write cross references or notes in your book to cross reference other books, okay, as we're going along as well, so you'll know where to find these things. Let's go ahead and put that slide back up. Okay, so the next step in thinking or cognitive skills is processing the information that you get, okay? Processing that information, like taking it in and making sense of it, okay? Processing the information. Also analyzing the information, like thinking and trying to, come to some kind of conclusion about the information that you've gotten. And remember, does everyone analyze or process things the same? No, everybody's different. They have different backgrounds, they have different beliefs, they have different ways of thinking about life in general. Okay, so not everyone's made with a cookie cutter, We're not all the same. And what might be apparent to you about something, and you might take a bit of information and you might think a certain way about that information, and you might think that you know what it means. But when you ask the next person, they might have a completely different outlook on it, or slightly different outlook on it. Okay? So, but what we got to learn, what we want to get in our mind about the peaceful solution, that is why you have to have information that you can all agree on, that you can all understand and agree on, because the peaceful solution is not up for interpretation. There's a right way and there's a wrong way, okay? There's a right way and there's a wrong way. It's very simple. It's black and white, okay? You don't have to sit there and look at it and go, well, I think that means that I should do, well, no. It'll be plainly spelled out for you. And one of the ways you can know you're making the right choice, remember, a right choice doesn't what? Yeah, it doesn't cause harm. It doesn't cause harm to you, your neighbor, or the environment. But of course, you would have to know if it causes harm. And sometimes you can't see the harm it's causing unless you know all the facts about that particular subject that you're going to learn in the peaceful solution. The next element of cognitive skills and thinking is judging and evaluating information. Also reasoning, problem solving, and decision making. Okay, these are all elements of cognitive thinking, what I just read. 8 elements right there of cognitive skills and thinking, that cognitive about, in your brain there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. I think there's a little something there that something else you need to know about cognitive. There's a word or a phrase called cognitive bias. Okay, cognitive bias. Cognitive bias is the way a particular person understands events, facts, and other people, which is based on their own particular set of beliefs and experiences and might not be reasonable or accurate. Okay, in other words, the way a particular person sees a particular thing or receives certain information or understands events or facts, right, is going to be based on their own beliefs or experiences, and they might not be thinking correctly about that particular event or facts, etc. That's why you have to lay out the facts and explain them clearly in this book. Okay? Because if they take the facts as they are presented in the peaceful solution, there's no room for bias there, cognitive bias. In other words, if you explain that, well, look, this is what it means, right? They see it in black and white, and you explain it clearly to them using, the principles from all the other material to add everything up and make them understand what it actually means, then there's no room for that faulty interpretation. Remember what I told you about looking up words that are found in the peaceful solution and using other definitions from dictionaries that have faulty definitions that don't match what the peaceful solution teaches? Well, some people already have it in their mind. Well, I know what responsible means. I know what respect means. I know what honesty means. I know, because I'm an honest drug dealer, man. I make sure when I weigh out the pot, man, everybody gets an ounce. If they wanted an ounce, I weigh out an ounce and I put it in the baggie, and they get exactly what they paid for. I'm honest. Right? You can twist any of those character traits, okay? You can pervert all of them and turn them upside down into something that they weren't meant to be. That's why it's important that they get the definitions from the peaceful solution, and so there's no room for that cognitive bias to kick in, okay? You see the illustration there to the side there where the old lady, it looks like a Salem witch trial, I think, and the old lady's being accused, I guess, of witchcraft, and she says, it makes no difference what I say, you've already decided I'm guilty. And the man who's prosecuting her says, the witch can read minds. Okay, this is how people think, okay? Faulty thinking. Okay, it might not be accurate, but that's how they think. Okay, that's what cognitive bias is about. Okay, so you got to remember that not everyone thinks the same way. That's what I'm trying to show you, is you have to be careful that people understand exactly what they're being taught in these moral lessons. Remember, you're teaching moral lessons. It's important that people understand those moral lessons and that there's no room for, because even in the word moral, there's leaders, including religious leaders, that say war is morally justifiable. They say that war is morally justifiable. Okay, now wait a minute. According to the word moral, remember, morals are rules, right? And they're rules that don't bring harm. So what would that eliminate right away? War, right? Wouldn't that eliminate it right there on the spot? So, based on their cognitive bias, based on what they've been taught or the way they understand things already, before they come to the peaceful solution, they're going to have those kind of thoughts. They're going to think that they already know, like, what's right, what's wrong. What, do you think I'm stupid? I'm 40 years old. I know what's right and wrong. No, nobody's saying you're stupid, but you are uneducated. Until you get educated in moral character, you do not have a well-rounded education. Sorry, I don't care if you went to Stanford or you went to Yale or Harvard or any of those Ivy League schools. I don't care where you went. Unless you come to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Incorporated, you do not have a full, correct education. Because you can use all that information that you got at school to the harm and destruction of your world around you. Even though you have all the information and you have all those skills, to make a nuclear bomb, right? Well, that tells you right there you didn't get a moral education, because you wouldn't be building nuclear bombs if you had a moral education. You had no reason for building a nuclear bomb, right? Wouldn't have enemies because you'd know how to make friends. All right. So where was I? Let's look at the next slide. I wonder if I had something else on that. Yeah. Also remember perception. Perception's important too, about way people perceive things. Like these illustrations. Perception means a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something, a mental impression. A way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something, a mental impression. Like you see this man here, he says there's 4 logs laying there, and the guy says, no, there's 3. And if you look at it, it could be either way. It does look like there's 4, and it does look like there's 3. Okay? But it's perception. It's the way they perceive. Look at the other illustration. You see the 2 men standing there with a 6 or a 6. It looks like a 6 from the perspective the one man standing at, but the man on the other side, from his perspective, it's a 9. And they're both sitting there arguing over what number it is. Well, from whatever perspective you're at, it could be different. And that's what we need to understand about people. Their perception might not be the same as yours because they're on they've been given certain information that's faulty. Or they have a cognitive bias where they think a certain way already. Okay? And you have to straighten them out. You have to show them that straight line, that rule, that standard that's set by the peaceful solution. Okay, you got to show them the standard. You have to make sure they're walking the chalk line, the straight line, and they understand the rules, okay, clearly. All right, let's go to the next slide. See if all right, you can back up. You can take the slides down for a minute. I just want to make sure I didn't skip something there. Okay, so I'm on lesson plan page 1A. We were talking about cognitive abilities and practical skills needed to become a responsible person. The next bullet point says the benefits of behaving responsibly. This is the concepts we're going to explore in this unit. The benefits of behaving responsibly to avoid taking risks. And we learned about risk-taking behaviors like premarital sex and drug use and alcohol abuse, etc. The problems that arise when moral responsibility is lacking from the lives of individuals and society as a whole. You turn the page to lesson plan 1, page B. And also another concept we're going to explore is how a responsible attitude contributes towards preserving the resources of our planet for our use and for future generations. So again, we're going to be tying the planet, this planet Earth, into responsibility, just like we did with the self-control, the respect, okay? By teaching your students how to act responsibly, you are laying the foundation for the development of caring, compassionate, and conscientious adults. This is our opportunity to encourage and motivate students to acquire a responsible character. Encourage students to develop integrity by practicing positive traits and eliminating negative traits from their characters. Okay, that word integrity, let's put that slide up because I want to remind you what the word integrity means. Okay, remember on page 18 of the character unit, it says the end result of internalizing positive character traits that can be clearly seen in your actions and attitudes is called integrity. So does that mean if I read this book right here, I'm going to have integrity? Because I just internalized it. I put it in my brain, right? I read it all, right? So I have integrity now? What do I got to do now? I guess right. I got to be practicing it to have integrity, right? It's not just internalizing it by taking it in your eyeballs and your brain and your heart, but it's also through practice and determination to overcome those negative traits. You can actually learn to love it, you know. You might not like it at first, but you can actually learn to love it if you keep practicing it. As you start shedding some of those negative traits, man, you're going to be so excited. You're going to be like, man, I thought I'd never be able to stop doing that, you know, and now you're not doing it anymore. And you're like, wow, man, you know, and you want to share that with other people because you know everyone's in a ditch. Everybody needs help coming out of some kind of problem. So you're wanting to share that with others as well. So by teaching your students how to act responsibly, okay, it says, okay, this is our opportunity to encourage and motivate students to acquire responsible character, encourage students to develop integrity by practicing positive traits and eliminating negative traits from their character. Use the enrichment activities to reinforce the concepts of responsibility in the minds of your students. As teachers and educators, we have a great responsibility. See, no, we have responsibility, right? To prepare today's children for tomorrow's world. By learning why positive character is important, students might avoid making choices that will adversely affect them for the rest of their lives. Who they become and what they deem important depend largely on what they are taught and what they put into practice today. Therefore, instill in your students the need to practice positive character in all aspects of their lives. In other words, teach them to value these things. And the way they're going to learn to value them is they're going to start to see, once they get that information, they're going to see why responsibility is so important in their lives. And it's not just going to be a word anymore, like a chore. You know, when you hear the word responsibility, you usually think chores, job, right? Drudgery. But now they're going to look at it completely different. They're going to see it in a whole new light, what that word actually means. So let's look on lesson plan page 1C. Chapter 1, you can count on me, the note to the teacher. It says, students who are taught to be responsible and accountable for their choices and actions develop a greater sense of self-worth and confidence in their ability to make right choices. Notice that confidence that's needed to make right choices. They will receive the satisfaction of knowing they are dependable and trustworthy people who take responsibility for their actions. In this introductory lesson, let's go ahead and put up the next slide because I think I have these written down or something here. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is what some of the things that we're going to learn in this introductory lesson. The students are going to learn what moral responsibility is. Moral responsibility. Not just responsibility, but moral responsibility. That's what separates the men from the boys in character education programs. The Peaceful Solution teaches moral character. Moral character. True moral character. I told you, some people think it's moral to go to war. Okay? So that right there eliminates their program. Okay? So it basically eliminates every program I've ever seen because most other programs use, you know, a lot of war heroes as their standard. For instance, I see a lot of them have pictures in their books of soldiers, and it says integrity, you know, when you're called to do something and you're not afraid to go do it, you know, and it's got a soldier there with a gun ready to go kill somebody. You know, come on, man. These are this cognitive bias that was placed through education in people's minds or experiences they've had, etc. And it's faulty thinking. okay? But you can put them on the right track by explaining what true moral character actually means. They will receive this, okay, it says, okay, we're going to learn what moral responsibility is. Also, that when people in society are irresponsible, others can get hurt. We're going to learn how to become responsible. We're going to learn that responsibility includes fulfilling tasks and obligations with a positive attitude. That's important too. You know, that was something that I really struck me when I first learned this book was, oh, so it's not just doing the job, it's also having a positive attitude while I do it and not complaining about it. Oh, okay. Right? Also, how to make responsible choices, what age-appropriate duties and obligations are, and we're going to learn that responsible people accept the consequences of their choices and actions without making excuses or trying to shift the blame or use scapegoating techniques. So, when the concepts of this lesson are fully taught, students will have a greater understanding and appreciation for the value of responsibility in their individual lives and society. Together, we can teach our students to be responsible people, capable of making decisions that will support their positive moral growth and character development. You know, this is a serious job we have. You know that? It's a very serious job to be a teacher of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, because if you come walking in late to teach your lesson on responsibility, well, you got a little explaining to do, right? That's just one example of, you know, irresponsible conduct on behalf of a teacher. You know, we got to make sure that we're polished in responsibility as well. Not going over our lesson plan ahead of time, not getting all the, you know, lining up everything we need to before we teach a class is showing a lack of responsibility on our part. I mean, so there's many, many responsible things that we need to do. And what the beautiful thing about this program is while you're teaching others about responsibility, you as a teacher will also be teaching yourself how you can be a better teacher. Okay, so let's go ahead now and go to lesson plan page 1E. You can count on me is the name of lesson 1. You can count on me. Now, the objective and purpose of this lesson is that students will learn what it means to be responsible. They will also explore practical ways in which they can apply responsibility to their own lives. The materials that are needed for this lesson are a teacher's audio lessons, a CD player, and student handbooks. And let's see, procedure. The procedure. Okay, Dr. Scalpel. No, not that kind of procedure, but it's a procedure. A medical procedure is the same thing. You gotta go step by step. You know, they ain't just cutting into people. You know, they know there's precision, you know, in things. You know, there's a procedure for everything that has to be followed. Mechanics know that. There's procedures that need to be followed. In any work, there's procedures. There's policies and procedures in work, in any kind of job that you have to follow. You know, so you need to know those policies and procedures in order to follow the procedure and get the best outcome. That's what responsible people do. Irresponsible people don't read the contract. They just go ahead and sign 33 pages of, you know, and I know when you go to get a new phone or something, they got like 10 pages of, and you know what? You could be signing away everything that you got and you don't even care. You just want that phone. You just hurry up, man. Let's get this done. You know, I mean, I don't know how many things we probably gave away that we don't know yet because we didn't read the papers. Okay. Well, let's not worry about that yet, though. So let's just continue in the lesson. So here's the procedure. Number 1, inform students that today they will begin the responsibility unit of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. It's like the first day at school, man. Wasn't that exciting? Had your clothes at the end of the bed, you know, the night before. I remember whenever school started, you know, we'd have our clothes at the end of the bed, nice and neat, ready to go for the next morning. We were so excited, first day of school. And by the end of the week, man, we were ready for school to end. Right? But nonetheless, we're starting a new unit. Explain that in this unit, they're going to explore the following points: how to make responsible choices, what moral responsibility is, and how it is applicable to our society, and how we can be responsible for our safety if disaster strikes. What? This is pretty timely here, you know. Nowadays, you know, when my Amber Alert goes off on my phone, I normally, it's like really irritating, you know, because I think I got one this morning. I'm not thinking that might just be an Amber Alert. I'm thinking that might be a nuclear bomb, a warning or something. Who knows? We got wars going on right now. We got nations lining up for peace. I mean, war. Right? Sure looks like it. It don't look like peace is getting ready to break out everywhere, but it sure looks like nations are lining up to take sides, and they're talking nuclear. So every time that Amber Alert goes off, I don't just ignore it anymore, you know, like I used to. I look at it just, you know, make sure, you know, I got at least 30 minutes to find my bunker. So, how we can be responsible for our safety if disaster strikes. So, step 2 in the procedure. Tell students that in today's lesson they will focus on what it means to be responsible, how to develop a responsible character, and the rewards of achieving a responsible character. Rewards, man. Everybody loves rewards, right? Have students turn to page 3 in their handbooks and read the introduction. So let's go ahead and turn to page 3. Well, actually, let's not. Did I just do something silly? Well, we're not going to turn to page 3. We're going to turn to page 1 because we got to read the note to the student. Now, this is pretty interesting. I wasn't going to use the overhead monitor, but I'm not even going to show you. But my book just jumped from 1 to 2 to 7. Huh. I better be responsible and get me a new book. Make sure all the pages are in there. I'm glad I'm not going to get that far tonight because I would be missing the pages. All right, so let's go ahead and go to student page 1, the note to the student. That's where we need to be right now. Okay, yeah, let's read the note to the student. We go ahead and put up that next slide because I think I have a visual for everybody at home. I like that picture of that fish there because I love the fish. Haven't been fishing in Texas because Texas don't know what fish are, man. You go to Alaska, you know what a real fish is. You know, 100 pounds. Never mind. Okay, so I'm exaggerate sometimes too. Okay, so note to the student. Have you ever heard the saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime? How can being taught to fish as opposed to being given a fish change the course of someone's life? The answer to this question is simple. When you are taught, you gain the knowledge needed to make choices that can lead to success. You know, it's like that old story of, you know, or that old something that we've been told along the way that, you know, if you give somebody standing on a street corner, you know, $10, you know, or $5 or $1, you're not really helping them. Okay. 9 times out of 10, if you watch them, as soon as you know, sometimes they're sitting in a wheelchair, and as soon as the traffic light turns green, they get up out of the wheelchair and stretch, sit back down, because they're not really even needing that wheelchair. They're just trying to play into your emotions. But you give them that money, right? And you're thinking, you know, you're helping them. You know, they're going to be able to buy a drink or something to eat. Well, they're going to buy a drink all right most of the time. They're going to run across the street to that 7-Eleven and grab them a 64-ounce, beer, crack it open. Well, congratulations, man. You were so responsible and so compassionate. You just gave someone the ability to continue to be a drunk and continue to be lazy and continue to be irresponsible. Okay? That doesn't mean you can't have compassion for somebody and think, man, you know, I sure hate to see anybody in that condition, because none of us like to see that. We shouldn't. But giving them something is not helping them. If you're going to give them something, here's what you need to give them. You can direct them to somebody that can help them get on their feet. I think I remember reading well, there's people in the community that can help them. You know, there's places that they can go and get shelter, etc. Dallas started a really great program where they were taking homeless people and they were giving them vests, reflector vests, and one of those trash pickup sticks, and they paid them $10 an hour to pick up trash. And then they gave them a place to stay while they were doing it. And I thought, man, that's an awesome program. You know, they should be doing that everywhere, you know. $10 an hour, giving them a place to stay, teaching them how to budget. You know, they were even teaching them, you know, how to handle their money and that they were making and everything. And I thought, man, that's great. That's what we need. We need something like that, not just giving handouts. Because remember, when you're taught, you can gain the knowledge you need to be successful in life. You know, some people don't know how to govern themselves. Now, there's a lot of homeless people today because of the economy the way it is. They've lost their homes, etc. You know, there's a lot of people that are out on the street, living in their cars, living in tents. It's horrible. Okay, our economy is it's in horrible shape. But you know, giving handouts is not the way to do it. You know, teaching the man to fish instead of giving the man to fish, and that's what this is talking about. Being taught how to develop a moral character is much like being taught how to fish. You see, the positive traits that make up moral character, such as honesty, responsibility, and respect, are the foundation for a successful life. This is why the book that you are now holding in your hands is so important. From this book, you can learn the value of having a responsible character and how to develop character or positive traits. From this book, you can learn the value of that. Okay? And it goes on to say that being responsible is important. At your age, you most likely have chores around the house, in addition to keeping your room clean. You have homework, and you might even have to help with a younger sibling. Guess what? Having chores and other obligations are great things. What? I thought it was boring, man. Why are you making me do those chores? Why do I have chores? Well, you're going to know when you get older, you know. You're going to be thankful your parents taught you how to use a broom and a dustpan and a mop and a vacuum cleaner. And because if they don't, and if you don't pick one up, even if they do and you don't do it, boy, you're going to be in rough shape. You're going to have one messy house, but at least you'll have cockroaches there to clean it up for you, and rats and, you know, everything else. They'll come in and clean it up for you, I guess. It's not what you want, right? Okay. And then you're thinking, well, my wife will do it. I don't have to do anything. My wife will do all the cleaning and the cooking and this and that. Get ready. You're in for a big surprise. Okay, so it says, having chores and other obligations are great things. They'll help you learn how to prioritize, make decisions, and complete what you start. Remember about prioritizing, you know, about a goal setting. Priorities are things that are most important, you know, how you set goals. You prioritize certain things to reach your goal. Some things aren't as important as other things. And you learn that when you're doing chores. You know, some chores can wait while the other chore is more important that needs to be done first. You learn all these skills when you do chores. It says, simply stated, having responsibilities now will prepare you for your role as an adult. Speaking of adulthood, the type of adult you will become will depend largely on the choices you make today. If you make irresponsible choices by experimenting with drugs, abusing alcohol, or engaging in premarital sex, you might not even make it to adulthood. Now, that's not a great thought, but it's a true fact. You know, I've lost a lot of friends in my life that were in my younger years that are in the grave because they made irresponsible choices. You know, some of them were so avoidable that it was unbelievable. Like, I had a friend once, we were at I wasn't with him at the moment this occurred, but one of my friends was with him. There was this dam. It was a water dam up in Alaska. There's a water dam, and it was kind of like the water went down into this gushing water went down into this grate, and there was like a pipe there, and a pipe came out. The pipe came out the other side. Well, it was a dam to make the lake smaller and bigger, you know, to let water in, let water out, etc. And there was this one part where the water inlet was that was extremely fascinating to us because the water was gushing in there really fast, and we like to go down there and stick our foot there and play in it and stuff. Well, my friend stuck his foot in there, got sucked in the water, and he went under the water and he drowned because it was so the water was rushing so hard, there was no way you could get out of it, like where it was going into that inlet. And it sucked him into a pipe where he got stuck in the pipe, and the water just built up against him, and he drowned. And that made a huge impact on my life because he was only like 12 years old, okay? And it didn't have to occur, you know? Just like all the foolish things that we used to do, all the risk-taking stuff we used to do, the antics we used to do, walking under train trestles, you know, under the train trestle, they had these grates, you know, and we would act like we were the great Walindas trying to, you know, balance ourselves 100 feet off the ground, and down below there's these big boulders, you know, and if we fell, that was it. But we didn't care. We were just playing around, having a great old time. And this is the kind of stupidity we need to teach people to stay away from and be responsible, okay, making responsible choices. So you might not make it to adulthood. Did you know that young adults have the fastest growing rate of STDs in our nation, and that teen pregnancies have reached approximately 1 million a year? The bottom line is, if you make irresponsible choices, you are just as likely to have to face the consequences as anyone else. Can you put up the next slide? I want to show you what's not helping much. Now, I mentioned Stanford University a little while for a reason. I want to read this article about sexually transmitted infections in teens. Okay? And I'm going to have a difficult time reading this, but I'm going to do my best. And actually, I cannot read that hardly at all. On this monitor that I have, I cannot see this. It's extremely, but anyway, if you'll notice some of the underlined sections, it talks about some of the, it basically says that, you know, if your children want to be sexually active, it says to teach them, advise them not to have sex, but if they want to, right, then here's what you need to do, you know, and it starts giving you these steps. Now, these are experts that wrote this, okay? It talks about reducing, tell them to use condoms, okay? That's the first thing they use. They always fall on those condoms, right? You tell them to use that piece of plastic. That'll protect them. That's what they tell. That's what these experts are saying to tell your teenager, okay, to use a piece of latex plastic to protect themselves. That's the first thing they're telling them. The other thing the experts are telling them is to reduce infections, make sure that to reduce the chance of infections, I'm sorry, I can't read that, but it's basically saying that if a person has HIV, for instance, it's okay to have relations with them as long as they're doing certain things to keep up with their medical they're at certain levels in their medical treatment for their HIV. Like they're doing certain things in their HIV treatment that makes it safe. Now, these are experts, folks, that are telling them this. These are experts that are telling them this. Experts. These are experts. And Stanford University, it says, they've got 1,118 full-time staff at Stanford University, and that they're rated number 5 of best medical schools for research. This is number 5 in the nation, okay? And they're telling your children to use condoms. They're telling them you can have sex with somebody that has HIV as long as they're, keeping up with their doctor visits and they have certain diagnostic things done, it'll be okay for you to have sex with that person that has HIV. These are experts. Is it any wonder? It says right at the top of this article that 50% of the people that get STDs are between the ages of 15 and 24. Is it any wonder with this kind of information? These are experts that are telling our children this, that are telling adults this. Now, they have a cognitive bias, Where do you think they learned this from, these people at Stanford? Where did they learn it from? Well, they learned it out of some book. Somebody wrote a book and told them that it was okay to do that, right? So they got some faulty information because whoever wrote that book wasn't top moral character, you see. Because if they were top moral character, what do you think they'd be telling them about premarital sex? What would they be telling them? They would be telling them, they wouldn't just be telling them anything. They'd be teaching them, right, step by step, why it's important to value yourself and the lives of other people as well. And they'd be giving them the self-control to learn to say no and to save it for marriage. That's what they'd be doing. They'd be coupling it with the self-control and everything else they need to be making right choices. Let's go to the next slide. I'm sorry, I couldn't read that slide at all. It was completely... Now, here's another story I found. This is from the Houston Chronicle just this year. Texas leads the nation in babies born with syphilis. The problem is getting worse. And it says, experts say social barriers to healthcare access, coupled with a general lack of awareness of the importance of testing and treatment, has allowed the disease to spread in Texas. Now, I want you to listen to that one more time. Listen, this is experts that are talking. This is why there's so many babies being born with syphilis. Listen why. According to the experts, social barriers to healthcare access, in other words, because they're a certain color or a certain culture, they can't get to a hospital and get the treatment they need, right? Coupled with a general lack of awareness of the importance of testing and treatment, has allowed the disease to spread. Do you notice something missing? There's no education. It doesn't say lack of education and moral education and how to say no, does it? It just says lack of, people just don't know, when to go get tested and about treatments there are out there for their diseases, right? That's all they need to know, right, guys and girls? That's all they need to know, right? Really? That's all they need to know? Well, how about better health care access, being able to get to a doctor and stuff? Would that help? These are experts. These are experts, and not one of them mentioned anything about education. Nothing. Nothing. Not a word. Not a word about education. And we got 5 whole books that show you how to avoid this. Let's go to the next slide, please. Sorry. Now, expert. The definition of expert, next time I'm going to get, I'm going to get a better, I'm going to get a printout or something because I cannot read that monitor. I'm sorry. There's a lot of slides I can't read, but an expert is somebody that has, knowledge, that gains knowledge, and they, through experience and through study about a certain subject. Okay. That's what an expert is. Okay, now these are experts that are telling you that you can do these things, and they're leaving out moral education or any kind of education about it completely. These are experts. That word research, remember, break words down. Research means you don't search once, right? You research. You keep searching and searching and searching. And you keep gaining more facts, as it shows here. You continue to get facts about a certain subject. You continue to gain facts. You continue to investigate. You don't quit investigating. You keep searching. You keep searching. You keep searching. Well, where are they searching? For the cure. Where are they searching for a cure? In a lab? With mice and monkeys and, destroying animals and stuff, doing their research? Is that what research is? Is that what research is all about? Well, I can tell you, if you knew the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, the search would be over. Right? The search would be over. But you'd have to research the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program now, right? You'd have to research that moral character education, as we're learning here in this beautiful program, so you could get all the true facts to eliminate STDs. So it's important that you develop a responsible attitude about your choices, obligations, and personal well-being, then consistently practice making choices that are healthy and beneficial to yourself and others. Being responsible is important, okay? And getting educated and becoming an expert in moral character is what will eliminate the problems that we see in our world today. The next class will be November 12th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The next teacher, it's probably going to be Catan, but it could be David. Sometimes they switch off, but either way, we're looking forward to another great class. Everybody stay warm. We'll see you next time. Have a great evening.